that during this year, we've seen many successes as well as challenges. He was asked what exactly these challenges were to articulate them, to which the Prime Minister's reply was, and I quote, India's rapid ascent in 2023 has been very important as it sets the tone in our journey to Vixit Bharat. We've unleashed the latent potential of our nation on global forums. India's presence and contributions are now sought after. From a country that used to feel left behind, we have become a country that is now leading from the front. From a country that used to seek a voice on various platforms, we've become a country that leads and creates new global platforms. Today, the world consensus is clear. This is India's moment. This led to our next question to the Prime Minister. How are you, the Prime Minister, ensuring that India becomes a $5 trillion economy and the world's third largest? Remember, the $5 trillion economy is a promise that the Prime Minister and the BJP government have made. Here is the Prime Minister's answer. And I quote, our track record speaks for itself. When I became Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2001, the size of its economy was around $26 billion. When I left Gujarat to become the Prime Minister, the size of Gujarat's economy had become $133.5 billion. And as a result of the various policies and reforms, today Gujarat's economy is around $260 billion. Similarly, when I became Prime Minister in 2014, the size of India's economy was $2 trillion. And at the end of 2023-24, India's GDP will be more than $3.75 trillion. It is this track record of 23 years which shows this is a realistic target. Raj, I want to come to you on this because the $5 trillion economy has become a very, very sticky catchphrase. We've seen, quite a bit of heat in the media recently, over whether this can happen, it won't happen. There have been empirical counters. There have been those who've said it can definitely happen given India's track record over the past couple of years. This is something which is quantifiable. It's not just a promise, it's an actual arithmetic number to which the government can actually be held to. But the Prime Minister is sticking with it, Raj.
I think he took two tracks. One, of course, he kept to his commitment that he would fulfill it and sort of told us that his past record shows that he has kept his word on these kind of issues. Very interestingly, you had mentioned Vixit Bharat. And I think in the interview, he went really in depth into what he thinks of Vixit Bharat. And he told us that, look, it is not about per capita income. That you say, if you look at the common definition of what a developed country is, they talk of per capita income being about $20,000 or
yes.
so, around $2,000 to have a world-class infrastructure, as well as to have a society that is governed by democracy. These are three or four of the attributes. His point was that, look, there are over 100 characteristics that you need to talk about when you look at what a developed country would be like. And he went a little more into that, and he said there are three or four things I'd like to do in the next couple of years. Before I get into that detail, talked very interestingly of the fact that between 1922 and 1947, there was an Indian generation in India that aspired for freedom. And in that aspiration, they fulfilled that thing. He now sees a period between 2023 and 2047 where there's a whole new generation that aspires to be a developed country.
Yes.
And therefore, his faith is that this generation that is going to change that, has the will and the power to do it.
Very interesting.
And then he talks about three things that he would like to do in this Vixit Bharat process. One is he looks at skill development and he brings in the new education policy to say that he's changing the way that, this is a problem-solving generation. The second thing he says is that he would like to encourage medium-sized and small businesses and make them grow into larger enterprises and therefore build the foundation of this 2047 development. And the third aspect he identifies is that the financial markets, he says investment is key to it, and there has to be a restructuring of it. So it is not a kind of a woolly notion that he talks about Vixit Bharat. I think for the first time he actually elaborates. Let's also be clear, Shiv, even as we speak, the Niti Aayog has been, and which we mentioned in our article, is working on a blueprint for Vixit Bharat. There are 10 secretarial groups that have been formed.
Okay.
And they have, brainstormed for the last 3 or 4 months. And that proposal, I am told, is going to be put on the new year to the Prime Minister.
Okay.
So he is giving flesh and bones to what he's talked about in the last couple of months.
Okay, very, very interesting. So not woolly, definitely a lot of flesh and bone, a lot of structure to what is going on. Siddharth Zarabi, Managing Editor, Business Today, also with us. Siddharth, this is something you've been looking at, ever since that whole $5 trillion economy declaration kind of exploded upon the political landscape. How are you seeing the mood right now as far as that promise is concerned and what the Prime Minister has just said?
Well, very clearly, the Prime Minister in his interview has given us a glimpse not only into his 2024 agenda, which is election year, but a broader 5-year blueprint. And it's very interesting, the kind of economic roadmap, and that's the bulk of crux of his argument really, is evolving around 2 or 3 pillars. One, sustained economic growth, GDP growth, and a very clear-cut statement that there will continue to be reforms, because a lot of the times this government is asked about reforms as they were understood earlier, and he very clearly says preparing India's financial sector and capital markets and the regulatory framework. So if you look at some of these key points, the second part very clearly is the continuing focus on the small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
Raj referred to that. And third, most importantly, Shiv, is a clear indication that infrastructure will continue to drive growth and answer critics like Sanjay Jha.
Okay.